Hey guys, Doing7 here. I just wanted to talk about the Chili Cove race yesterday in HRL, and I wanted to address a couple things because there were a few things I think needed to be addressed because there were some problems that we haven't really had in the past, and they definitely need to be talked about. So if you haven't seen the race, or if you weren't at the race, because I haven't put it on YouTube or recorded it yet, so you probably haven't seen it if you weren't there. Um, it was really cheesy, and it was probably one of the most exciting chili bowls I've ever watched. And the reason why Chili Bowl is such a historic and such a prestigious win in HRL is because there's been 8 chili bowls so far, and I believe that doesn't count all stars. If you want to count all stars, this was the 10th chili bowl race that we've ran, and that doesn't even count how many motos we've ran at the track, which is got to be more motos than any track we've raced at. I mean, the second closest HRL track that we've ran that many at is probably Eagle River. So, point is, Chili Cove, or just Chili Bowl in general. Chili Cove's just the continuing of it. Uh, it's a it's a really big race for our league. I guess I could compare it to Daytona 500 for NASCAR, Indy 500 for Indianapolis. Monaco. Why did I say Indy 500 for Indianapolis? That was stupid. And Indy 500 for IndyCar. Monaco for F1, stuff like that. Just it's a huge race. It's one of those biggest races of the season, besides like the last race or any of the Champ Series races. And because of that, a lot of people go pretty ham to win Chili Bowl. And on top of that, it's a really tight track. It's a really fast track, and because of that, because of those two things, the track ends up being pretty cheesy. There's generally a lot of wrecks, a lot of hard battles. There's 3 wides and 4 wides, which is crazy with how tight and how banked the track is that we can even have a 3 or 4 wide there and keep it clean. Um, it's just a crazy track. I genuinely think you guys will enjoy the race, but getting to the point, I just needed to preface this video with that, like, the reason why Chili Bowl is such a historic race, because that's important for what we're getting to later. So, point is, we had a few instances of like we had a few circumstances yesterday that haven't really been a problem in the past. So I'm gonna go over both of them. So the first one I'm gonna go over is we had an instance where at the end of the second moto there were people calling out that the race was over at the incorrect time. Um, and that is a huge issue. So I'm adding it to the rule book, and we're going to make sure that it's a rule. We're basically going to add on to the false caution rule, because the false caution rule is obviously like if you call a caution that shouldn't really be a caution, then you get penalized. Well, we're going to add I'm not exactly sure what I'll call it yet, but it'll be something along the lines of we'll have a false finish rule where if somebody's calling out that the race is over when it isn't. Um, Someone that's not an official, that is. And then, kind of banking off of that, we'll have a rule that basically is going to be about obstructing information from race officials, because I think this is a big problem that we've had in the HRL recently, is some people just talk so much and it gets a little ridiculous. I mean, we've been trying to emphasize the fact that, if you have no essential information, if you have nothing important to say, you want to try to stay quiet, as quiet as possible, so that the essential information can get out there, like blue flags or whether someone's on the inside or outside, or whether there's a caution, or any type of communication like that. So we try to have people be quiet mostly, besides that stuff, but obviously that's not going to work out perfectly with the different personalities and just the fact that some people talk more than others, and there's just so much talking. I mean, if you were at one of these races, if it's any people that aren't racers watching this, if you were at one of the races, you'd know what I mean. There is so much chatter, and it makes it hard to focus. Honestly, it makes it hard to focus at times, and it also, more importantly, makes it hard to hear information from race officials. So the big part of this rule is that we're going to be giving penalties in the future if people are just excessively um, obstructing information from race officials for people, because I noticed the problem at a lot of races, but it's generally not as bad. Like if it's a supercross track, it's generally like some open track, it's single wide a little bit. It's not as intense as Chili Cove, so it's usually not as bad. Whereas at Chili, it is so tight, and There's so much screaming going on. There's so much just stuff going on. There's so much action around the track. There's so many battles. There's a lot going on at once. It's a lot to take in, and it becomes hard to actually hear the information where there's like so many laps to go, and it gets miscommunicated. Cautions get miscommunicated. Stuff like that happens, and that's just something that we have to deal with. And hopefully these rules, if we further emphasize these rules for trying to stop people from obstructing that information, hopefully that fixes it. And of course the false finish, because from yesterday that was a major issue. There was an accident basically between Blades and Fireball, where Fireball put Blades into the tire because Fireball thought, okay, race is over, like whatever, at this point I'm just gonna do this and I'm just gonna go line up. But it turned out the race wasn't over. The people that were calling the race over early called it early, and the race was not concluded, and Blades ended up losing it overall because of that. Unfortunately, all I can do is punish the people that called it out early. I haven't decided how I'm going to punish them yet, since it wasn't, it's obviously something that's punishable, even though it wasn't a rule in the rule book previously. I think it's well accepted that you should not be obstructing information like that, and if you call a race early and are, having people cause incidents because of that, I think that's definitely punishable. And we'll have a more clear-cut penalty in the future. For today, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do yet. I'm still working that out. Going to discuss that with Turkey a little bit. But anyways, moving on. So just closing that out, basically we're just going to have a couple new rules for that, and hopefully information like that doesn't get obstructed anymore. Moving on, there's another thing that we had a problem with, and the problem was with cautions. Well, with the way cautions work, with it having to be 2 people, the idea behind that is that we have less cautions, and that does end up being true. We do have less cautions because of that. If it was just one person, we never get green flagged, which is good because Chile is at its most fun when the race is staying green, and there's always a lot of cautions there. So it's a lot more fun when we can keep it green as long as possible. So the problem that we're going over here is with caution communication. What happened a lot last night, and this happens a lot at ovals in general, is people just have bad communication on cautions. Like, in my opinion, it should be pretty obvious to at least one person when something's a caution, if that makes sense. Like, there should be at least one person involved where that one person had the best sight line and they could easily call the caution. Now, the problem with that is the fact that some people are just quiet in early. Despite what I was saying earlier about how the races get so loud, it's because there's like a select number of really loud people. There's also a select number of pretty quiet people. Like Kat doesn't talk very much. Camby doesn't talk very much. There's just people like that. Usually doesn't talk too much during the race. Like, there's just people like that that don't talk very much and don't clutter the communication. And I'm not calling out them in particular. I'm just saying in general, for the future, if there's a caution, whoever is in the best sight line to see it needs to call it and needs to make a decisive call for the future, because I don't want to, I was getting blamed a lot for stuff like that with caution calls, and it's like, man, I'm trying to race and manage this at the same time. Like, some of the onus is on you guys as well. I can't do everything, especially with the fact that I'm racing at the same time. There's just absolutely impossible that I can do everything, and some of the blame needs to be put on the racers that don't call cautions properly when they should be, or call them improperly. We may have to look into a few false caution penalties for Chili Cove. But essentially what I'm getting at here is, for the future, if people are like, is that a caution? If the question gets asked, we're not going to stop. Okay, so that is what we're doing. We're staying green until somebody definitively calls that's a caution. If there's any debate, like just people discussing it, I don't expect the field to stop, and no one should expect the field to stop. Nobody should expect anyone to stop. Just keep going green until it's definitively called, and then a race official, either me or Slaunch or someone like that, maybe Blades perhaps, will call, okay, now we have a caution, and then we'll get it stopped and we'll get it restarted. So just for the future, if there's ever debate, the thing you should do if there's ever people debating over a caution is not pull off and have a caution. You want to keep going until it's definitively called. So that's the main thing I wanted to get out. There. Okay, one more issue. I just thought of it. So there was an issue with Vulcan last night where his controller ran out of batteries. and he unfortunately lost a pretty solid chance that he had at an overall because of that. So here's what I'm going to say about this one. If you're like, read the rule book on the cautions, because the rule book is not complete. A rule book is never complete. You can always add to a rule book because there's always stuff coming up from race to race. Like some people don't like that when we add stuff to the rule book, mid season or just in general when we make additions to it. But you got to understand that the reason why we make so many frequent additions to the rule book is because there's always stuff coming up that we just didn't think of. There's always more things as we race that we think of where we're like, oh, this is missing in the rulebook. This needs to be included. So that's why additions get put in so much. And what I'm getting at is that the caution section isn't one that needs too many additions. It's pretty clear cut, and essentially we cannot call a caution for a one-person crash unless it's like a lag incident that affects everybody. That is the only case where we can call a caution for a one-person thing, if it's a major like lag thing. If it's your battery's running out and you wreck clean off the track and nobody hits you, we're staying green. Now, here's my advice though. Here's my advice to like Vulcan in particular, just everybody. Get a charge kit or charge your freaking batteries before the race, because at the end of the day, like I know it's the hard truth, but at the end of the day, if your batteries run out during a race, you can't blame that on anyone else, man. You can't blame that on us for not calling a caution. You can't blame that on anyone else. Your batteries ran out. Your batteries ran out. It's your fault. I know that's hard to accept, but at the end of the day, it is. And you just need to move on from that. So that's, for the most part, okay. There is one more aspect to that. So, and I'm not trying to pick on Vulcan in particular. I'm just trying to address all the issues from yesterday, because I mean, if you saw the Discord, I'll probably do a separate video just on this alone. But if you saw the Discord, man, it was insane. The drama was crazy. We probably hit the most people we've ever had online at once on the Discord ever. I think we had 15 at one point online at once. And in the Discord in general, we have, let's see, 28 people in the Discord, and we had 15 on at once. That's crazy. That is huge. Like, we've never had that many people on the Discord at one time, and that's awesome. I'm really glad that the Discord is blowing up like that after races, and that there's a lot of interaction there. It's just unfortunate that it was with all the drama. But anyways, that is just, I just wanted to emphasize how crazy that was, that we had that many people. Regardless, what Vulcan was saying, and I just wanted to address this like in general to everybody. He was basically talking about like bias in our calls, bias in cautions, and stuff like that. And I just don't get where he's coming from with that, because I've had bias league owners in the past, and I've been biased in the past. But I think ever since starting up HRL again, from season 3 on to now, I think I've been pretty good about trying to stay as unbiased as possible. There's many instances this season and last season where the urge was there. I wanted to make a bias call, and it's always there. If you're ever in a leadership position, you'll understand that. People will roast, I don't know, the president, like governors, community leaders, literally anybody in any leadership position ever, for being biased. But what they don't understand is, put yourself in their shoes. It is impossible to stay unbiased. And I mean, if you were in their leadership position as well, you would probably make your own bias calls as well. And it's always a thing that's in the back of your mind. Now, despite the fact that that's true, I think I've done a pretty decent job ever since starting the HRL back up of staying unbiased. And particularly in Vulcan's instance, I know I wasn't biased, because you can look at Detail posted a previous race. It was the Magna Tempest race from season 1, I believe, on Halo 5, and Armada's controller batteries die. So same exact instance as Vulcan, his batteries die, and we did not call a caution for that. As tempting as it was, we did not do that. And the reason I bring that up is because if there's anyone that I would want to call a biased caution for, it's Armada. He's probably especially at the time, because he doesn't get on anymore now because of his unfortunate circumstances. He's probably one of my best friends on Xbox and in the racing league at the time, and still is. So if there's anybody that I want to call a biased caution for, it's him. Did I do it? No. I mean, Slaunch. I'm pretty good friends with Slaunch. Look at how many times he got cheesed by lap drivers last season. If I was biased, I could have called how many frickin' cautions for Slaunch in those situations and given him his spot back because of how bad he got cheesed. But did I? No, because you have to stay unbiased. Like, as tempting as it is at times, you have to. And I know I don't get it perfect every time, but I think I have a more positive than negative track record in that instance. So, and the main reason why I think I've done a decent job is because I know that if I wasn't, I know everybody would be calling me out for it. Because it's obvious. Like, when someone in a leadership position is being biased, it's very, very obvious. It's absolutely easy to tell from those around them. It's not that hard to spot. So I know if I was being excessively biased, I would be getting called out by everybody for it, and that hasn't happened yet. So hopefully I can continue to do a good job for the rest of the HRL in that aspect. So I know this whole video was a lot of a mouthful. I wanted to try to delve into like some of these issues and why they happened, what happened exactly, and what we're doing going forward. I hope I accomplished that with this video. I tried to do that with every single issue. I tried to dive into them as deep as I possibly could, which is hard, especially when I'm trying to keep this video under 20 minutes. Even then, I feel like I've talked a lot already. I feel like I could talk for an hour on some of these issues. I mean, perhaps we'll need another podcast, bring the podcast back soon. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have anything, this is basically a big discussion video. This is like an open forum. So I got my side of these issues and what we're doing, as decided by me, Slaunch, and Turkey Blaze, like the main runners of the league. This is basically like what happened and then what we're doing going forward. Now, if you guys have any input on anything, it doesn't even have to be related to these issues on this video. I'd prefer if it was related to these issues, but if it's not, that's fine. Just leave a comment, get your stuff out there. And I'm sorry that this video is so long. I'm sorry that I rambled a lot. I tried to give every issue as much time as it deserved. Even then, I feel like I could have done way more, but that's fine because I'll have another video coming out soon that goes over the Discord thing that happened last night, because there's a lot that needs to be gone over in that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So look forward to that video. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. See you next time.